Hey gang, Scott here. So in this video I want to talk about this reveal that Skylum did for a new product they're calling Luminar Neo. And I describe this as a reveal and not a product announcement because some of the details are still kind of cloudy, right? So this is not software that I've seen in action. I've not played with it. It's not tangible to, I guess, anyone outside of Skylum. And that leaves us with some questions, but there are some things that we do know. So I wanted to run through those, kind of talk about where is Luminar Neo positioned in Skylum's family of products? What's the major features that are being teased to us right now? What type of pricing, and they got some deals going on for like an early launch, and just give you some general information, what I have to share, and some thoughts about it. So let's get into this Luminar Neo product. All right, Luminar Neo. First thing, this is not an upgrade to Luminar AI. It's not a replacement for, in the sense that you would install Neo and Luminar AI would like magically transport everything over there. It's a distinct and separate product, right? We've seen this pattern before from Skylum. We saw it with Luminar 4 to Luminar AI. Same thing's happening here. And depending on your workflow, that's either doesn't matter to me, I'm okay, or it's oh gosh, another lift of a catalog, heavy lifting. But to be clear, this is not an upgrade. It is a new product. Now, what are the things that they're touting? What are the new features in here? What's going on with Luminar Neo? There's a few things that are interesting, and it's all around AI, right? That's Skylum's thing, AI. So let's look at a few things here. First is taking that AI that they have to identify people and make it simple to replace backgrounds for portraits. Another one that looks interesting, scene relighting. So just quickly fix all the lighting in your scene with an AI tool. Layered editing is back in Luminar Neo. If you're a compositor, you like to work with layers, blend things, layers are in the product. And there's a few more things that are mentioned in the press release. There's layers, there's masks. Masks come back. Distraction removal. That one gets kind of interesting. There's a couple of notes in the press release about automatically finding and removing dust spots, finding and removing distracting backgrounds. So think like power lines or maybe telephone poles, things that are just out there, as opposed to having to go retouch them away yourself. Click a button, the AI figures it out and gets rid of those things. More AI-powered tools that's teased in the press release. They also mentioned a companion mobile app that doesn't have too much detail around it, but it seems that you could take something on your phone. There'll be some sort of hook to bring that quickly into your Luminar AI catalog running on your computer. You do your tweaks and assumedly send it back out to your mobile device so you can do your social shares and stuff like that. Don't have any other details around that at all, but that's the fundamentals of what Luminar Neo is, what we know right now about its feature set. Let's talk a little more now about where does Luminar Neo fit into Skylum's product line. So the Luminar family here, you've got Luminar 4, Luminar AI, those are around today. Luminar Neo just announced today. Luminar 4, we're not going to spend any time talking about. That's the oldest product. It's getting a few, tweaks here, camera support, this, that, and the other thing, but it's not the product for the future, so we won't spend time on that. That leaves us with Luminar AI and Luminar Neo. How do these two stack up? What's the positioning here? Luminar AI talked to Skylum, and they targeted this at photographers who want AI-powered tools, more template-driven, a minimized editing effort. And you think of this as folks that just want something done quickly, something done well. I certainly fall into that camp. But also people that need photos for their business, maybe their blog, maybe their social media campaigns, but they're not photographers as their primary role. They need good photos to accompany whatever it is their business is. That's where Luminar AI is fitting in. Now, Luminar Neo also targeted at photographers, but I'll say also digital creatives, folks that we want the AI power and we want more of it, but we also want to be able to handcraft our photos, do masking, have AI help us, but give us the control and the flexibility to do that masking, work with layers, all of the additional things that photographers that want to handcraft an image, or a visual artist that's really creating something that may not be a photograph, it might be digital art. You want layers, you want that product, and I still want the uplift of AI. Well, that's where Neo fits in. And as far as like thinking about where things are going to go in the future, right, Luminar AI, it's still around. I expect it's going to get more camera support, OS support. It'll be getting those types of updates, so it's not like it just immediately goes away when Neo is available. But it's clear that Neo is going to be the new product. That's where new features will go. If there's going to be some new whiz-bang AI tool, we're going to see it show up in Neo. That's my expectation. We'll see it in Neo first, and probably that's where it'll land. Luminar AI, talking with Skylum, getting some briefings, they really look at Luminar AI as they've delivered all the features that they promised to deliver in Luminar AI. And so we're not going to see a whole lot more happening there. Maybe a tweak here and a tweak there, but I wouldn't expect like a brand new super duper AI-based feature. That's going to land in Neo. And of course, performance, right? We expect Neo is going to perform more than Luminar AI. And one or two other things I've learned about Luminar Neo in reading through the material available is that it's a little more flexible in the sense that if you want to use a tool more than once, like say you want to add 2 different types of LUTs to your photo, you can't do that in Luminar AI. You get one tool, you get to use it once, and that's it. Well, in Neo, you'll have those flexibilities. You'll be able to do that. Also, you can add and use the tools in any order you want. That's not something we can do in Luminar AI. It's kind of top to bottom. It's like, here's the tools, this is the order that they're applied in, and you have no say in that. In Luminar Neo, you'll have that flexibility. You can decide, I want to add these tools in this order, and sometimes that does have an effect, an impact on your final image. So a little more flexibility there. Okay, so that's as much as I know about the fundamental features of the product. Let's talk a little bit about pricing, and we'll get into some of like the FAQs and some other tech specs that you'll want to know about. Coinciding with this announce of Luminar Neo, Skylum's running some early bird pricing for the product. Early bird is defined as the first 30,000 orders from September 9th, 2021, like today, right now, through September 19th, 2021 at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, so New York City time. That's when the early bird pricing is valid. And if you want to get this pricing, well, then you need to be one of those first 30,000 customers. Now, there is upgrade pricing. If you already own any Luminar product or Aurora HDR, and I'm taking any Luminar product to mean Luminar 3, 4, or AI. Any one of those, that's a Luminar product, right? So we should see this upgrade pricing. Here it is on the screen, $34 for 1 seat of Neo, $49 for 2 seats. You can run on 2 computers. They also have a package for Luminar Neo and Luminar AI. So you could purchase it at early bird pricing, get Luminar AI now and start using it if you've never owned Luminar AI. Maybe you stayed on Luminar 4. So you could take advantage of the early bird pricing, get Luminar AI and play with it now, and that knowledge will transfer to Luminar Neo. So it's not like wasted effort. That's the upgrade pricing. If you are making a new purchase, you don't own Aurora HDR, you don't own Luminar, here's the pricing there. $54 starting price for a single license, going up to $98 if you want 2 licenses and you want to get the Luminar Neo, Luminar AI bundle. So if you make the order, when can you get it? Luminar Neo will be available this winter. Now, all right, this winter, a little vague. That's what we know. If I had to take a guess, I'm thinking mid-December. That's about when Luminar AI hit the market. But winter, it could mean January 2022. We just don't really know. But what we do know is if you want to jump in on the early bird thing, Skylum does have a 100% return guarantee, a 30 days from the Luminar Neo ship date. That's important, the ship date. You have 30 days to return the software for, a full refund. So it's not like you buy it in September and you have to decide in October because you've never seen the software yet. This is more about if you buy it now, you receive the software in the winter from 30 days of Skylum shipping the software and making it available worldwide. You can decide, turns out this isn't for me. You've got 100% return guarantee, so you can get your money back. So that helps to minimize some of the risk here with a purchase if some of this upgrade pricing sounded interesting to you. So it's a bit of a cushion there. A few common questions I do have information on. As far as Luminar 4 and Luminar AI, those are not removed or replaced if you install Luminar Neo. All these are separate products. They will all run side by side on your computer. Catalogs will not migrate to Luminar Neo. You have a Luminar AI catalog, a bunch of photos in it. Those will stay in Luminar AI. There will not be a catalog migration to move those photos with their non-destructive edits to Luminar Neo. Now you can, of course, point Luminar Neo at the same source images, but your edits will be living in different catalogs. We've seen this pattern before. This is the same thing that happened with Luminar 4 to Luminar AI. Now the Luminar AI templates will move forward with some tooling provided by Skylum. We don't have details about what that tooling is. They've said we will provide tools that will migrate your Luminar AI templates to Luminar Neo. Now textures, skies, any sky objects, for that augmented sky AI feature in Luminar AI, those can move forward to Luminar Neo. Those are just additional files. Those are additional image files, and those will move forward. You can also run Neo as a plugin to Lightroom Classic, Photoshop, macOS Photos, and Microsoft Photos. So what kind of system are you going to need to run Luminar Neo? It seems pretty standard. These are kind of pretty standard specs that I've seen here. Always more is better, right? We always want more power in our machines. But here's the rundown. What do you need on macOS? One of these Macs that are listed here, there's a whole bunch of them. The key thing is you need a Core i5 or better. An i5 would probably be at the very low end here. You really want to be getting like i7 or higher in my opinion, but the bare minimum is an i5. Bare minimum memory is 8 gigabytes of RAM. 16 is recommended. I recommend that as well. The more memory you can put in, the nicer your machine will run. This one's important. You need to be running macOS 10.14.6 or higher. 10.13 or High Sierra is not supported. You've got to be on 10.14.6, one of the Mojave versions, or better. And then a typical amount of hard disk space. This is a little hefty, honestly, 10 gig for an application, but that's not too extreme given today's hard drive sizes. SSDs are always better for performance and at least a decent display. Now for Windows systems, certain level of processor, again, there's that Intel Core i5 or an AMD Ryzen. OpenGL 3.3 liter compatible graphics cards. That suggests to me that a graphics card is required. I don't know enough about PCs. I don't run Windows, so I don't know if those are standard in your typical Windows system, but that's one thing to check on is graphics card if you're a Windows user. Same level on memory as on macOS, 8 gig is the minimum, 16 is recommended. Need to be running at least Windows System 10, this particular version or higher. Same types of things on hard disk, SSDs for performance, and your display sizes. So the big question, of course, is, Scott, do you recommend Luminar Neo? Should I be buying this thing? That's an interesting question to answer. And let me give you some context as what I'm thinking about when I think about Luminar Neo and how it fits into my workflow, my photography, and hopefully this will help you decide how this might fit into your workflow or not. So first up is Skylum has a pattern. This pattern is pretty well emerged. Each product that comes out is a new product. It is a standalone entity, and it's almost an island unto itself, right? From Luminar 3 to 4, okay, we could move there. Luminar 4 to Luminar AI, No, you really can't move your non-destructive edits from 4 to Luminar AI. It just doesn't work. We're seeing that same pattern with Luminar AI to Luminar Neo. And if you look back at some of the other products that Skylum has had in the past, there was Intensify, and then there was Tonality for black and white. And these functions and features, they got folded into the leading edge product. So that part's good. It's not like we lost functionality. But as far as like using a Luminar family product as your home base for your photography, I don't advocate that, and I've been vocal about that since Luminar AI. I'll put a link in the show notes on a video that talks about this, where I don't see Luminar as a long-term asset manager. Now, the technology for your editing is very strong. So coming back to that question, do I recommend Luminar Neo? I think if you are a photographer that is using a Skylum product as, I'll say, a point solution, I'm doing my main asset management in, say, Apple Photos or Lightroom or even Photoshop with Bridge, and when I need AI power, like some of the things in Neo, like removing distractions in the background, like power lines, or I need to do a background replacement for a portrait, I'll send that over to a tool that does it well, come back. Using a plug-in workflow, I think Luminar Neo is very intriguing. And for $34, if you're upgrading, that's a pretty inexpensive plug-in. I mean, if I use it 12 times a year, once a month, I'm probably getting my money's worth if I'm able to do something in 10 seconds that would otherwise take me 10 minutes. So that part is intriguing. If you are the type of photographer that is, I'll say, like a one and done, you're doing something, you make all your edits, you cut either a TIFF or a JPEG, and you never look back and you just have folders worth of photos, sure, why not? You don't have any of the concern of long-term catalog maintenance. It's kind of like using the tool as a plugin. You're using it for a point solution, you get your image, you get it done fast, you get it looking good, and you move on. I still will maintain that Luminar family products, don't put all of your eggs in that basket for non-destructive editing. It's just there's too much churn, and migrating catalogs is challenging. And the engines of these AI algorithms, they may not translate from one to the other. And so even if you could move all of the photos with their non-destructive edits from one to the other, they might not quite look the same. So my guidance is this. Think about your workflow. If you're using Luminar AI today and you've worked it into your workflow where you're sending something out to Luminar AI, coming back, Luminar Neo looks really good, and early bird pricing is very attractive. That is a low-cost plugin. The other consideration is of these features that I've talked about here, and go read the press, go look at other things. Don't just take my word for it. Talk with other photographers, watch other videos, see what they're saying about it, get multiple sources of information, and then make the decision that's right for you. Look at all those features. Are they important to you? If you're not doing layers and compositing, well, maybe you don't care about layers, or maybe you have layers somewhere else, so that's not intriguing about Luminar Neo. But maybe automatic dust removal is, or a very easy way to replace a background, maybe that is intriguing, and that is worth the price of admission. So I hope this gives you some level of information about Luminar Neo and helps you in making your decision. I wish I had more concrete data to share and I could show the product. We just don't have it yet. But I did want to put this video together to give you what I know, what I'm thinking about it. And feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'm expecting a fair amount of, let's just say, vocalism in the comments. I'll do my best to answer what I can. I may not get to every comment, but feel free, share the information amongst yourselves and use the comments as a forum. And we'll all try to piece together more knowledge about Luminar Neo as the next several months unfold. I'm sure Skylum will be sharing more with us as the weeks and months go by. Well, until next time, my name is Scott Davenport. Have fun.